As the Breeders' Cup previews continue, once again remind you, play them through NYRA bets. Promo code is BC19, up to $200 match on your deposit, and a $25 risk-free bet, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or the Breeders' Cup Classic. This one's a sprint, a 10% winner's bonus on all your trifectas played through NYRA bets and any sprint races in the Breeders' Cup races this weekend. Race number 5, the second Breeders' Cup race on Saturday, is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. And if there's a more wide-open race run in America or anywhere during the course of the year than the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, I don't know what it is. A full field of 14 entered, 2 also eligibles, and you've got the winner of the last 2 Breeders' Cup Turf Sprints in Stormy Liberal coming back. And I'll tell you something. If Stormy Liberal runs the race he ran last year when he beat the unfortunately retired World of Trouble, he's going to win this race. But this was on a very soft course, and he's going to get a different course here. And the problem, and listen, Stormy Liberal is a terrific horse, and if you want to bet him sentimentally, have at it. And boy, was he game in this race. But he is not in good form this year. His form has really declined, and this is not an easy race. He's going to have to be at the top of his game, and he's not coming to this race at the top of his game, and that's going to be evidenced by the next video we look at, a race he finished a well-beaten third, where Eddie Haskell ran second. What's interesting about this race by Eddie Haskell is Eddie Haskell's a horse that's always been forwardly placed in his races, but Joel Rosario thought, you know what, I drew the rail in a race laden with speed, let me take him back. And I'm going to tell you something. In my opinion, there is no better turf sprint rider in the country or ever than Joel Rosario. I mean, he's one of the best riders in the game, but he is brilliant in these turf sprints, and he showed that he could rate with this horse. But that was drawing the rail, where he could save ground and angle out. Now he draws post 10, and Joel is in a much, much more difficult situation in a tougher field. I respect him, but I'm also going to respectively decline from putting him in my top 3. He might, however, make it into my superfecta, particularly out of respect for Joel. Let's take a look at the Woodford at Keeneland, where you're going to see 3 players that are in this race, including Stubbins. And if you want to see a great ride and why I think Joel Rosario is the best in these turf sprints, look at this ride on Stubbins. Inside, angles out, pushes away to get room, and blows by the field. This was some effort by Stubbins and Joel Rosario. No knock on Flavien Prat, but I prefer Joel in these turf sprinters. And it seems like this horse, his improvement coincided with Joel riding him. I can't take a horse off a perfect trip, but let's talk about some others in here. Leinster, who comes out of that race. We saw Leinster run very well at Saratoga, and Leinster is a player for Rusty Arnold in here. We're taking a look right now at Leinster running second to Totally Boss. And then we'll finish my conversation because Imprimus is involved in here, and we'll slow up a little on the video so we can talk about a number of horses. Yes, Totally Boss got it done, but Totally Boss was part of a pace that held together, which I think very much worked in his favor and arguably worked against Leinster. I like Leinster. He's a player. He's not in my top 4, but he can win. Totally Boss, I thought his day was last time out. But let's talk Imprimus, so let's just take a minute to talk about him. There was a time when Imprimus was maybe the best turf sprinter in the country. That was before he went to Ascot. So the question you have to ask yourself, did he fall apart after Ascot? I'm not so sure. I feel like he got pinned down inside in both these races that we just watched, and he's a horse that's going to benefit from maybe getting a more clear run. Now, I knew he drew post 3, but I think Frankie Dettori is going to get this horse out in the clear, and I like that Frankie Dettori gets the mount and Imprimus. And I'm hoping he can get back to his best efforts that can win it, but he needs to make that outside clear run, which he's used to be successful and fast in the past. I like Imprimus's chances in here. What about the horses coming from the Belmont Turf Sprint? The talented Shecky Shabazz, who's run very well in his 3 turf sprints, but he's going to have to deal with other speeds, as we'll talk about, particularly Pure Sensation in just a moment. But I like Final Frontier. I mean, this is a horse that has really improved when he's been sprinting on the turf. And he's run very well in 4 of his 5 races. He showed up at Aqueduct with a blistering performance. At Saratoga, he won at a surprising 5-2 with a big figure. He was victimized by the pace behind Shecky Shabazz 2 starts back, but not in this race, where he ran a very potent 104 buyer. And I'm glad he got in the race, and I think that Final Frontier is a player for Tommy Albertrani. What about Pure Sensation? And Pure Sensation, how can you not root for the 8-year-old? Pretty cool. The average age of the runners in this Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint is just over 5 years. They stick around, these Breeders' Cup turf sprinters, or the turf sprinters in general, and nobody more so than Pure Sensation, the 8-year-old, who honestly, it feels like he's in the best form of his career. With his last 3 efforts, all 3 are triple-digit buyers. And Paco Lopez has to send him from the inside. Now, we'll see how fast the pace is, but I don't know. Is it going to be Breeders' Cup blistering? And am I so sure that Pure Sensation can't wire the field? I'm rooting for the old boy and Christophe Clement. And we'll show you how good he was, because this is going 6.5 furlongs down the hill, and this is going back 3 years, I believe, to 2016, when Ohm made that charge from the back of the pack. And I want to say Gary Stevens rode him that day, finding his way, weaving between horses to just come a nose short. You see Pure Sensation chasing, but he was chasing going 6.5 down the hill. This is 5 furlongs, much more his game, and you can see that Pure Sensation is never giving an inch in the late stages. Can Ohm come back off a 4+ month layoff and duplicate that performance at 5 furlongs? I don't know. He's not on my tickets, but I don't think he's out of the play. These Breeders' Cup turf sprints, they're not easy to pick the winners, but they are fun and wide-open races. I'm going to take Imprimus on top, the number 3, over the 2 Pure Sensation, the 9 Final Frontier, 3rd, and the 10 Eddie Haskell with Joel Rosario, my 4th choice in a very fun Breeders' Cup turf sprint that you, me, and everybody should be playing through NYRA Bets. $25 risk-free bet if you sign up now with Breeders' Cup. BC19 is the promo on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile or the Breeders' Cup Classic, but we'll also match up to $200 to new members. And the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint is a sprint. That means a 10% winner's bonus on trifectas throughout the weekend. Also, this is the final leg of the early pick 4 at Santa Anita. And if you play that, races 2 through 5 on Saturday through NYRA Bets, you'll be part, potentially, of a 5 million point hit and split, the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.